Hi, my name is Valerie Wagner, and today I'm going to be talking about my JCC honors project for fall of 2022. I did my project on the near extinction of Corylophus ciliatus, which is also known as the New Caledonian crested gecko. Now, my inspiration for this project started when I was watching a video on YouTube about crested geckos and found out how they were not so long ago thought to be extinct. In fact, this was as recently as 1990. They were only rediscovered and brought into captivity in 1994. And I was surprised that they had gone extinct because since 1994, they have become very popular pets around the world due to their durability and ease of care. Even I myself have one as a pet. I have always found these beautiful animals very fascinating, and I decided to dig deeper with my JCC honors project. My goal and my plan. I decided I wanted to find the cause for the decline of the crested gecko's wild population in New Caledonia. I planned on doing this through doing research, creating an annotated bibliography, and then bringing all of my findings together in an informative research paper. This was pretty easy to do, aside from some obstacles that I faced while doing my research, but I feel like those obstacles helped me to learn even more about the species and the state of Earth's biodiversity as a whole. So these obstacles ended up working in my favor. Now, my process, I began with my research by looking for articles specifically on crested geckos themselves. While this definitely yielded a lot of information on the species, no source seems to do more than briefly mention potential causes for the animal's decline in the wild. I utilized library databases, Google Scholar, and I even tried to set up interviews with professionals on the topic. I had sent out emails to dozens of people. One was a college professor, one was a researcher in New Caledonia, and another was a very popular figure in the reptile pet trade who also had a degree in zoology and biology. Unfortunately, none of my efforts led to a specific answer to my question, as none of the people I wanted to interview ended up responding to my emails. And generally, the library databases and Google Scholar gave me either articles on very, very specific portions of the gecko, such as their thermoregulation capabilities or their sticky toe pads, or they just generally did not cover the specific information that I needed about what caused the animal's decline. So I decided to change direction a little bit. Since I couldn't find concrete sources detailing the cause of the decline of the wild population of Corylophus ciliatus, I decided I would take the few leads that I did have and research other similar examples. That way I could tie my findings back to New Caledonia and what's happening there, and kind of speculate as to what the major causes would be and why. Now, one source I found did briefly mention in one or two sentences how nickel mining, forest fires, and invasive species led to the species decline. Based on this, I looked into ways that nickel mining and invasive species have harmed ecosystems in other parts of the world. In the end, I found suitable examples of how these potential causes harmed ecosystems in other areas, such as how there's an invasive species of bird in New Caledonia that's causing to introduce more invasive plant species through how birds disperse seeds. There's also examples of how mining in the United States has caused fragmentation in forests, and fragmentation can cause a lot of harms to ecosystems as well, causing increased densities of certain populations in one area, whereas you might have decreased density of a population in another area. I also found an example of a source that talked about how a group of crested geckos in captivity were introduced to a parasitic nematode through contact with a different gecko housed in the same facility. I added these sources into my bibliography and paper and ended up realizing that all of the causes had one thing in common. The mining, the forest fires, and the invasive species generally were caused by humans. All of this destruction of wildlife was caused by human activity. Now, what did I learn from this project? I learned how to effectively do research, how to formally request an interview from a professional, and generally utilize the library resources available to me. I learned how to adapt to changes in plans for a project and how to use obstacles as a way to improve my work rather than inhibit it, as I feel like I learned a lot more from the examples that I found than I would have had I stuck to only researching specifically crested geckos in New Caledonia. I learned a lot more about how humanity has been harming ecosystems and just generally, how to adapt my plans as I run into issues. And most importantly, I learned how little awareness there is surrounding the harms humanity is causing to smaller areas of the planet like New Caledonia. All of the wildlife conservation commercials seem to focus on the same species that everybody knows about, like polar bears or pandas and stuff like that. I hope that people will be able to see this project and better understand just how problematic our industrialization is becoming for the Earth's biodiversity. After all, if things like nickel mining and man-induced fires are happening in New Caledonia, where it is a biodiversity hotspot with hundreds of unique species that are only native to that area of the world, one can only imagine how bad it could get if we don't start bringing attention to this and stopping this destructive activity before it's too late. I had a lot of fun with this project, and I really hope that other people can think of their own ideas and learn new things in the same way that I have throughout this semester. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity with this honors project, and I hope to do it again sometime.